With traffic, Holly Bay Campground, located on Laurel Lake near London, Kentucky, it's about 2 to 2.5 hours from Louisville or Cincinnati, or about an hour and a half from Lexington. There are 2 exits you can take off of Interstate 75 to get there. If you are northbound, you can take exit 29, but a word of caution here. Routes 1277 and 1193, well, on this side of the lake, they do have a couple of very narrow spots, and the locals, well, they drive it like they own it. So, if you have a large Class A or a longer, wider rig, you may just want to take exit 38 in London and then follow Route 192. As you will see, they've just finished widening this road just a bit for October. We took exit 29 and just meandered along, but came upon this road crew providing some much needed widening. Now, everything was going well until we met up with the paver and taking up some of our lane. Although I knew I had clearance for the body, I wasn't sure about that chrome exhaust, so I opted to get as close to the edge with my dualies as I dared. Well, the groove between the tires started riding the edge of the new blacktop. But fortunately, growing up on a dirt road with ice and snow, hold my beer. Noah, playing on his iPhone, didn't even realize an event had occurred. And we are happily RV after, on our way. The rest of the route was a piece of cake. 15 minutes later, and we're setting up camp in Loop D, Site 2. Sites 5 and 6, though, they have the best views of the lake, and each has a separately worn path to the water's edge. If I were you, I would try to get those sites if you book at Holly Bay. Although Holly Bay is an older campground, and basically it is government-owned, it is pretty well maintained. The electrical service is 50 amps and in good condition, and the water hookup, well, they're easily accessible and clean. There is no sewer service on the individual sites, however. You'll have to catch the dump station when you leave. Meaning, if you wait until checkout time, you just might be in for a short wait. One of the great things about Holly Bay Campground and Grove is that you're not parked on top of your neighbor like so many of the Florida campgrounds. If you have good neighbors, you might not even be aware of them. And there are several quiet, well, mostly quiet trails here to walk along. Use a little caution though. Some of the mountain bikers, they use the trail too, and well, if you're deaf or you have a boat on the water, you may not hear them approaching from behind you, and they may be irritated if they have to slow down a little. Youth is wasted on the young, but hey, if I could still run, you know. You just don't know how wild the animals along the trail are in their natural habitat. The Daniel Boone National Forest has quite a diversity of flora and fauna, like these partridge berries. Some people confuse them with tea berry, but these grow on a vine, and although they are edible, perhaps, they have virtually no flavor. Leave these to the birds and the bears, and don't eat anything else that you can't identify positively. And the recent wet weather provided an abundance of mushrooms along the hiking trails, like this Russalacia. I think these are pretty as far as mushrooms go, and while most in this family are edible, some, especially in Japan and Thailand, the Orient, are very toxic. I say let them be. And then there's this little guy, Bolbitacae, bright yellow. Some people substitute it for a magic mushroom, and it will give you hallucinations, but you might also end up with a one-way trip, if you know what I mean. Stay away from it also. We did meet one young couple who were actually hiking the entirety of the Sheltowee Trace Trail. That's over 300 miles. More power to them. Again, youth is wasted on the young. We got to Holly Bay just a little bit early in October to catch the leaves changing, but some trees like this sassafrass, they start turning a little earlier, and the bright yellow, sometimes red leaves help to identify it from a distance. If you ever dig one up, just take a deep smell of that root. It is wonderful, and you can make a great tea from this, but don't dig these up at Holly Bay. Although not technically illegal, you have to have a permit to collect stuff from national parks or forests. Another early Turner is this black gum tree. It's sold at garden centers now for its bright red fall colors, and since the grain is not straight, it is difficult to split it or crack it. The early settlers in this region found that useful to make handles for tools and such. One strange thing about this tree, though, is that it starts to rot from the top down, which leaves a hollow inside, a condo, if you will, for the forest critters. The old-timers found this useful. They would cut these trees down and make beehives from them, hence the name bee gum. These late blooming flowers, they're what the old-timers called frost asters, because, like the chrysanthemum, it flowers before the first frost of the season. You can identify it by each flower being on its own stem. The Indians used the roots of this flower as a flavoring, and the young tender leaves they would cook and eat as greens. I've never tried it, and it looks like a lot of work, but if you're hungry, who knows? Jill spotted this heart-shaped leaf along one of the trails. It belongs to a wild yam. Although it's called a yam, I'm not sure it's edible. The health food markets tout this as a hormone replacement or stimulator. I guess it would look nice in a shaded garden area, maybe in the same area you would grow hostas, perhaps. She also found this, the American strawberry bush with a ripe seed pod. And don't let this name fool you, though. Even though it's pretty, the deer and the squirrels like it, it is toxic to people. Don't eat it. I enjoy waking up early, fixing a good cup of coffee, going outside to look at the stars, and walking along the edge of the lake, just listening and watching. I'm totally deaf in one ear and have some hearing loss in the other, and this makes hearing Mother Nature, birds, even the crows more special. It would be hard to imagine never hearing these things again. That's why I enjoy just calmly sitting by the water's edge, watching the fog slowly lift in the morning, listening to the quietness of the forest. Let the kids be kids, run around on the slippery rocks, fall down, just laugh and get back up again. Yes, there are a lot of nice campgrounds here in Kentucky, but the lake and the walking trails here at Holly Bay put this at the top of my list. We know you'll enjoy it, and if you see us here, probably next summer, stop in and say hi. Until next time, take care.